Protests expected today here in New York City as Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be speaking at the United Nations. He's expected to condemn countries who recently recognized Palestinian statehood. Meanwhile, President Trump is pushing back on the possibility of Israel annexing all the West Bank.
I will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. No, I will not allow it. It's not going to happen. There's been enough. It's time to stop now.
Retired four-star General Jack Keane just returned from Israel and joins us now to tell us what he found out. General, what should we know about the operation in Gaza City and the mood in Israel itself?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. First of all, I've never seen such pro-American attitude among the population in Israel. It's always been solid, but it's really over the top as a result of the United States supporting Israel unequivocally with weapons and also with that decisive attack. And the praise for President Trump is everywhere you go, once they recognize that we're Americans. And by the way, Fox News and Fox Business plays 24/7 there, so they're very familiar with what we're talking about right now today. I think what we see in front of us, the challenges are finish Hamas in Gaza, keep their foot on Hezbollah. They've conducted over 1,000 attacks. They will not let them build capabilities in southern Lebanon again. That's never going to happen. And think of this. Lebanon is now talking about forcing Hezbollah to disarm. Who would have ever thought would be on that page? They're monitoring Iran in terms of what are they doing. No decision has been made to recover nuclear and ballistic programs, but they intend to do that. And when they do, Israel will likely reattack, and the United States will support that. They're pushing back on the Houthis, to be sure, and they'll continue to do that. But the opportunities are significant. Normalization with Lebanon, a security agreement that's getting close to reality, led by Ron Dermer, the Prime Minister's primary assistant. That is a game changer right there. And certainly the Abraham Accords are not dead, despite all the radioactive activity surrounding the Qatar attack. They still want to make a deal. Maybe not immediately, but over time. That is positive. And lots of talk about what to do about Gaza. Nothing definite about it for sure. One thing I was struck by, they've done some informal surveys, and there's a number of Gazans who'd be willing to relocate to another country voluntarily. Right. That is interesting of itself. A lot of work to be done here, and we'll listen to what the Prime Minister has to say here. But he's going to take a strong stand. Great. I compare him to Churchill. Absolute resolve and determination to focus on what the real objectives are, and will let nothing interfere with him in accomplishing those objectives. Yeah. And if Roosevelt, President Trump, supporting him down the road to achieve those objectives, and also providing some counsel and guidance along with it, which you would expect in a relationship like that.
General, something else happened. The president had a dramatic change of at least public display in terms of support for Ukraine. Part of a Truth Social, which I think is titanic and a change. Russia, he said this: Russia has been fighting aimlessly for 3.5 years, a war that should have taken a military power less than a week. This is not a distinguishing Russia. In fact, it's very much makes them look like a paper tiger. It looks like he's been reading the Institute's study of war. Do you think this is the president's new resolve, and do you think that he sees what Putin's doing, a thug that can't be trusted?
Yeah, he's come to this conclusion, certainly after the Alaska summit. He knows full well that what Putin told him, that he was willing to meet with Zelensky and then have a three-party meeting following that. And, you know, within 24 hours, his people are saying, oh, there was never any commitment. So President Trump has known what he said in Truth Social for some time. But what this reflects is his public decision to part with Putin. And that's what this is all about. And the follow-on to that certainly will be what we think it should be, and what the president has talked about, is that get the Euros to slap hard on sanctions and pulling back on their own oil and gas purchases. Slap is all the buyers of oil and gas. These are U.S. sanctions, to be sure. And upgun Ukraine, make certain that they can crush Russia's advance on them, and they can do some limited counterattacks to regain territory, and remove all restrictions on Ukraine's weapons firing into Russia. That, I think, is the pathway ahead, and it is a solid pathway for sure.
General Jack Keane, always great. Thanks so much. I can't wait for to see what's next with Ukraine, and I'd love if the president called you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.